Um,
Oh,
Ed, tell us what we're getting into today.
yeah, let me kind of set it up. So we wouldn't be talking about real estate and family court if it happened, I would say, in this way. If both parties were refusing to address, the separation of assets and they weren't going to go to mediation and the judge had no choice but to, take over the property and divide it up, which, with some divorces, if the two parties don't agree that, what needs to happen. But what we're seeing is courts that are kind of just jumping, to grab these houses, very early on and often doing things that we'll talk about that are highly suspect. But the biggest thing, the pattern that we're seeing is that they're forcing the value of the homes down and then signing their personal friends, often other attorneys, to take over these cases. And a lot of these parents are seeing that they're becoming victims of what they're calling fraud. And so we're going to go over several examples and come up with some theories on why the family court seems so intense very early on, to grab property and liquidate it and devalue it. And we'll look at what some of the motivations might be for this, and some of the hefty fees that these attorneys can get when the home is placed in receivership. So that's kind of the big picture. Why are these courts so quick to grab people's properties when that shouldn't be the first thing they're concerned with, and what could be their motivations behind it?
All right. Well, because
Yeah.
I've heard about the same things, and again, you're in Tarrant County. I've seen it in
Mhm.
Bear County, and I've seen it in Harris County. So
Yeah.
it's a common trend that's going around, and I think these parents that go into family court thinking that they're going to get a equal equal shared value on the house, and then they get their friends to come put their fingers in it, and then
Mhm.
they lose money, and everyone on the other side gains money. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, well, let's go over some examples. And for a lot of these cases, I know the people directly, but because I haven't had a chance to talk to them, I don't want to name them, without their permission. But I do want to give some just general descriptions of the kind of stuff that's going on. And these are based off actual accounts. So in Tarrant County, we've got a couple interesting examples. There was one gentleman who reached out to me and even sent me a long description, but I'm just going to kind of focus on what happened with this house. That was one of several things that he was really concerned with and how it was handled. And he had a pretty large house of a very high value. And one of these attorneys who was assigned, and it's often the same person, even throughout an entire county, you'll see the same attorney being assigned um, to, handle these, house liquidations. And this gentleman, this father told me that this attorney made really kind of completely bogus claims that the house was in disrepair. And this was a house that this gentleman lived in, and he obviously knows quite well. He knows the structures. He's, aware of the state of the house. And from the get go, this court appointed attorney said there were some very specific, structural things that were wrong with it. And the father, he went back and took photographs of, the thing in question and showed it in court. But the end result was that the value of the house was arbitrarily depreciated significantly. And he would say that that was completely based on fabricated information. And we'll kind of again talk about what the motivations might be, but it fits this pattern again of seeing the same single attorney who is assigned all these cases. These homes are placed in receivership, and then we even just completely fabricate information to devalue the home. And so for the parents, obviously, in the short term, what that means is when the house is the assets are split, or whether one party gets the assets, they're getting far a small fraction of the value of their home, which for a lot of people, your home is your largest asset, right? So this could substantially impact someone's ability to support themselves. That was one gentleman who I talked to recently. That's a Tarrant County family court case. There's another person who we know who's had a similar experience, and this person showed me some a transcript of a judge in Tarrant County bringing up the issue of the house. When the hearing had nothing to do with that, right? So this judge was fixated on this house and the fact that he wasn't able to get it sold. And there are two things about this case that are interesting. One, the father does not own the house. Two, the father is not married to the woman who is the supposed wife, in this case. And the judge even went so far as to declare divorce, for a relationship that was not marriage. And one could argue that that was done to allow the court legal access to place the home in receivership. So again, a non-married couple forced to divorce, that's a different process than non-married couples. Probably for the reason that, again, it allowed the court to get a hold of this property. And then again, this judge is kind of losing his mind because he can't sell the house. He seems, again, very fixated on selling houses, right? Of all the things that, happened with the divorce, that's just one part of it. And so that's another case. And there is something interesting I found online. There was this national website talking about real estate fraud. And there was a comments on there from a Tarrant County parent, which is interesting because again, the comments are from all over the country. Like this one caught my attention. It's from Tarrant County, and it's for people seeking legal advice for real estate fraud. Right, so that's the website. I'm going to quote this one because it's a public comment. This person said, "Quote: While I was going through divorce, a judge had one of her friends, I guess judge is a female, become a receiver to sell my house." So again, he's making it clear this judge is hiring personal friends for this. The receiver sold it in 10 to 12 days, $75,000 below market rate, right? So $75,000, a huge devaluation of it. My attorney and I tried to stop this because it was a scam. The receiver never placed a bond on the house. There is a law that a bond should have been placed. The judge protected the receiver in Tarrant County, and I lost my house and my money. The lawyer and the judge all denied about the knowledge of a bond. I need a lawyer to represent me to get my losses back. I need to know, am I wrong for taking the real estate agent to court for the damage he has done to me? So we don't know the judge. We know it's a female. We know the receiver attorney is a male who's personal friends with the judge. We know from this statements that the house was sold quickly and at a substantial loss to the homeowner, $75,000 below market rate. And so let's kind of get to, we're seeing this pattern of houses being forcefully sold very quickly to personal friends of judges below market rate. So what are these attorneys who are, placed in receivership? What do? Well, they turn around and sell the house for a lot more, right? So they've got an appreciated asset they can now turn around and sell for, at least market rate, if not higher. And they can earn 20 to 25% of a judgment that's collected. So 20 to 25% of this house is going to go straight to this attorney. And so that's a lot of money, right? You're talking, geez, $500,000 house, over $100,000, $125,000, I think, for pretty easy work, right? You're just, because you're given control of the house, the homeowner really has no say in what happens, and then you're depreciating the home and then selling it at a steep markup for quite a bit of profit. So those are the cases that I have found in Tarrant County. There's probably a lot of other examples. I've talked to people, but those are the kind of ones I could get together for today.
Yeah, I've heard where these judges are assigning their real estate friends to come in and take over these transactions. So these judges, and it's just like the amicus or the guardian ad litem scheme. They're getting their real estate friends to come in, uh, kind of sell that house and kind of depreciate it. And then you're right. When they're making 25%, that's easy. Let's just say a house for $100,000. That's $25,000 those people are going to make, and then they can split it however which way they want. And these parents are already thinking about child custody issues,
Mhm.
and then now on top of that,
Mm,
where are you going to live with your child? And
mhm,
I get it. I understand that there's all these laws that um, that are legislated to protect the interest of the people, but to me, with technology these days, you have email, you have social media, you have, and we've said it numerous times that these judges and attorneys are using WhatsApp or some sort of encrypted type messages. You're
mhm,
really not going to find the transparency, or you should be able to hold these people accountable if they are doing something very, very, very illegal, and especially as conspiring to take away your house and sell it for a profit, and then take that profit money.
mhm.
These real estate uh, agents that are friends of the court, um, it's
And they're
business.
also, I should say, I know in where you live in Houston, you've seen these are actual real estate agents in Tarrant County. From what I've seen, these are attorneys, and I believe I don't know if they've had to take separate, certifications to act as a real estate agent, or if they're just allowed to do that. I know some state attorneys can act as real estate agents when it's court related, but they're attorneys, in Tarrant County.
You know, attorneys are, and we used to say this about firemen, jack of all trades, master at none, because we always
Hmm.
see attorneys come in and they always, 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 they're therapists, right? They're children psychologists. Lawyers wear many hats, and now they're real estate agents.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I mean, they're jack of all trades, masters at none, and it's disheartening. It's disheartening that you can see the scheme right there, and it's affecting many parents. Because, like I said, this woman here in San Antonio, that I spoke with, her ex was an attorney, so she was already behind the eight ball when she went into court because she wasn't an attorney. He was. He got all his lawyer friends. They took over the house. They sold it, and she was griping about it. She was griping like they're trying to devalue my house, so that they can all share the profits. And then you tell me this story, and I'm like, that's a pattern. And then I hear about it again, in Harris County. I've heard one in Dallas County. So it all makes sense. It's again, these are all business transactions that are occurring, and again, I can't overemphasize. It's disheartening because you see it, you document it, and you see this significant pattern, and you can't expose it because, of course, um, there's transparency issues. And I know you and I have worked on Rule 12s. And maybe that's going to be the gatekeeper that's going to open Pandora's box to where we're going to be able to, um, once we figure out these Rule 12s, and we get certain communications back, maybe we can legislate a new law, about judges using encrypted type messaging services, because these people have an absolute right to file a criminal complaint if there is some sort of conspiracy with these judges and these real estate attorneys.
Hmm.
I mean, people are losing their livelihoods for the greed of others. And again, it's not a single occurrence. It's happening, throughout the state of Texas. It's a business practice now.
So, before we go on to some other examples, and I just found a great blog from a gentleman in North Texas I want to read when we get a chance. He's a really good guy. I want folks to reach out to him. if you're in a situation where you're going through a divorce and you want to find someone honest who will help you, sell your house, what everything that goes along with that in a divorce, but do it in a way that's not going to harm your family. And his name's Noel Cookman, and his website is themortgageinstitute.com. And he specializes in handling, you know, house related stuff during a divorce. And I've met the guy. He came out to the Dallas. You might have met him, George. We were all there. Really good guy, honest guy.
Yeah, I
They
met
also,
Noel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, he shared a story with me in Jesse Navarez's court where he was representing a client, and Jesse ordered this guy to work with one of Jesse's friends, right? And to Noel's credits, he went public about it, and he even wrote a blog about it. So um, this is a guy who's a professional. He understands mortgage finance law, state law, and what he saw was rampant fraud and unethical behavior in the 231st, and he wrote about it. And I'll go ahead and read these. Can I read a little summary of this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, okay. This is him. Let me list all 10 of the idiocies of the court. I call them idiocies because they are presumptions and serious mistakes made out of a marriage of ignorance and arrogance. So he's referring to idiocies as in, fallacies that family court judges will use when trying to, tell parents what they can and can't do with their property. So we got top 10 list here. Idiocy number one, that a person can purchase a property they already own. So sometimes these judges will say that you can purchase your own property. Idiocy number two, that a judge can determine value, equity, and therefore a fair and equitable buyout. Idiocy number three, that a refinance loan can close before final divorce and pay in, he used this word, OWLTY to a spouse, OWELTY. Idiocy number four, that a court can rightfully prohibit a party from doing business with any party, person, or firm they wish. And that's what happened in his case. Idiocy number five, that a court can rightfully prohibit and restrict a mortgage lender from communicating with a person who has asked for the mortgage lender's services by applying for a mortgage loan. I guess these things have all happened. I mean, he's observed these things, and now he's just kind of calling them out. Idiocy number six, that a mortgage professional who is working to get financing for a customer is interfering with a legal case. And I'm sure he's been called that, interfering. Idiocy number seven, that a judge is acting within his rightful duties by forcing a party into a cash out mortgage loan. Idiocy number eight, that a mortgage loan can close in 7 days. Idiocy number nine, that a judge can issue a punitive judgment against a person or business without a finding of fault or due process, which leads to a finding of fault. Or that a judge can sanction or prohibit parties from doing business with the person or firm without a finding of fault. Number 10, that a lender, he quotes Joseph Soto, is making a valid statement of loan approval by issuing a purchase pre-approval for a transaction that requires a refinance. And he even goes on to give a bonus idiocy that a receiver can effectuate a sales transaction in order to avoid a transaction that requires a refinance rather than a purchase. So again, this guy, really sharp guy, went into court and just saw rampant fraud out of Jesse Navarez's court, and again, documented it. You can read about this at themortgageinstitute.com. But more importantly, be aware of your rights. Again, we talk about your right to parent, your right to communication, X, Y, and Z. But you have certain, under law, not it's not constitutional, but under state law, you have certain rights and protections as a homeowner. And these judges, they have no right to violate that just because they're a judge. Or as he says, these judges are acting with a marriage of ignorance and arrogance. That doesn't excuse them or allow them to lawfully engage in the kind of behavior that we're seeing.
But that's the pattern that we've seen. We've seen the rogueness, the lawlessness in these family courts, and these judges are just overstepping their boundaries. I mean, and Noel Cookman, I met him. very nice guy, and I think if we do a part two, we should bring him on and let him
Oh yeah. Oh
open that
my
up
gosh.
for us.
He would love to talk.
Yeah,
He's a real well spoken, um, just a
individual.
real level headed guy. He can quote, I'm sure he'll quote all the relevant, business codes and laws and
But it's all a pattern, right? And Noel is on the same wavelength. He's watching these court proceedings. He's starting to see where these what does he call them? Idiocracies,
idiocy. Idiocy. Mm-hmm.
idiocies. He's seeing these idiocies, and he's documenting. He's providing a pattern that these are the excuses they're using, or and this is the plan of attack. And we're seeing that all throughout family court, that these judges are just overstepping your boundaries. They are ruling for you. You are being ruled. You are being governed. They are legislating from the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't overemphasize, and I keep telling you, like, keep recording, keep documenting, keep find people that are going through the same type of issues that you're having. If you're having a house being sold, and let's just say Jesse Navarre's court, find somebody else that's having the same issue, that's having their um house being sold in that same court or the court next to it, and find the commonalities, find the common denominator, find the real estate that's working both contracts, and then start digging there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are ways to start opening it up.
Yeah, and they're banking on this idea that you're going to be scared of the judge, right? You're not going to question them. You're not going to appeal the decisions. There was a case in the 231st that was remanded last year. We have the court documents, and it involves the division of assets where Jesse Navarez gave assets to one party that didn't even ask for it. And so a judge is not allowed to do that, right? You can ask for something, they can deny or award it, but they can't give you something you didn't even ask for. And this dealt with, division of assets. I don't remember if it was a house, probably was, but it's kind of related.
Yeah, I mean, they give legal advice all the time, and it to me, it irritates me when they give legal advice to the attorneys. Maybe you should file this.
Mm-hmm.
They I've seen that countless of times in my proceedings. They won't help the pro se litigant, but they tell opposing counsel, "Hey, look, maybe you should file this in my court." I mean, it happens, and so
Yeah.
these are the specific little things that parents or people going through family court need to realize, is that these patterns of abuse, they hurt people, they hurt children, they rip off, they steal. And anytime you record something or you document it, you should be able to report that without fear of retaliation, especially judicial misconduct. It's like going in the church looking for Jesus, right? You go into the courthouse looking for justice. And if you see that person wearing that black robe and they are not dispensing justice, it's your obligation. It's your
Mm-hmm.
obligation to make it known that this person that was elected, that swore an oath to the Constitution and to the laws of the state, is legislating from the bench, and that's not what they're there for. And especially if they're conspiring with attorneys or other real estate agents to make a profit or get some type of uh, campaign contribution or something. Um, as when you can identify it and you can show it, it's going to stand stronger. But right now, the as we all know, the transparency and accountability issues within family courts right now, it's obsolete.
Mm-hmm. Um, Falsifying or misrepresenting information to obtain a property violates Texas law under Section 32.33 of the Texas Penal Code. So there are civil and criminal remedies to this. If you, in the civil, on the civil side, and if your realtor or somebody, fraudulently devalues your house or does something, untoward, you can go to civil court and sue them. On a bigger levels, apparently it's a potential penal code violation. if we just had one example of, a court, intentionally devaluing a house and conspiring to, send money to a specific, court appointed attorney, and maybe that attorney somehow, finds a way to give a kickback to a judge. If we were just one case of that, I don't know if anyone would, press charges, but what happens if we see a systemic pattern of these courts using their court to commit fraud on parents?
So what I've been doing, and I encourage everybody that's watching to do it, I have been filing my criminal complaints straight into my family court docket, into my case. And I'm unapologetic for it because there's no mechanism of reporting. If George Saldana or Ed Brown went to the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department and we said, hey, this real estate agent sold my house and they did this violates Texas Penal Code, whatever, right? 99.9% of the time that Tarrant County Sheriff's officer is going to tell you, well, that's something civil. You got to go talk to the judge about that. We don't get involved with any of that. It's the same thing with perjury. It's the same thing with interference with child custody. The judges and the family courts that have exclusive jurisdiction over that court order or over any of those decisions, right? They say, hey, if you have anything criminal, we don't do criminal here. We're all family court judges. Don't yell at us. Go talk to the sheriff's department. You go talk to the sheriff's department. They say go take it back to family court, and you're bouncing back and forth. So what I did is I just cut the BS out and I just started filing my criminal complaints. You can file a criminal complaint. That is part of your First Amendment right to petition your government. So you have a right to file these criminal complaints. And if nobody wants to take them, just file the criminal complaint within the statute of the Code of Criminal Procedure, Chapter 15, and I believe Chapter 45 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. Notarize it and then e-file it into your court system or into your court case and tell them that there's no mechanism of reporting. Those judges still are bound by the law. They still can refer that criminal complaint to a magistrate of the county for prosecution. And that's what I've been doing. Has it worked yet? It hasn't worked yet, but I haven't taken it to an appeals court. But I'm ready because I believe that there should be a mechanism. Just because judges and attorneys are judges and attorneys, that doesn't exclude them from criminal prosecution. Judges and attorneys can absolutely violate the law. Nobody's above the law. Nobody's above the Constitution. The laws were legislated by the legislators, the legislative branch of government, the judicial branch of government. They dispense what the legislators have legislated. So they're supposed to dispense justice. And if anybody wants to change that law, we live in a democracy where you go and vote, you vote for those legislators, and those legislators legislate the laws of the people. We could go down another rabbit hole, but I don't want to go down that right now. But you have absolute right to file these criminal complaints. You have the absolute right to bring them up before the judge, and you have the absolute right to object to all of that if you think that there's something sketchy going on in the background.
Yeah, and when parents go into family court, they're seen as money signs. I think this is just another reminder. I don't think anyone going into criminal court is being viewed by the judge as a a potential source of profit. But in the family courts, anytime you walk into there, everyone's looking at you like, how much money can we get out of this guy? Oh, they got a $1 million house. That's what, 20% of $1 million potential. Just you can pocket it. All you got to do is get the judge to take control of the house, maybe even lie about you being married or whether you own the house or not, maybe doesn't matter, and just get the thing sold and get the money into the attorney's hands. And even though it's not, probably less nefarious than, giving a kickback, with a bag of money on a park bench. If, let's say you're sending your attorney friend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in profits, how much do you think they're going to donate to your campaign the next time? At the very least, you're creating this, funnel of money to make sure you stay in power. that doesn't require a whole lot of work. You just, make an order, assign someone, and make them rich, and then they're going to make sure you get reelected.
Yeah. I so the whole I've read some case law, and in that case law, it talks about what determines whether you're married or not, and have you called him your wife or called him your husband, have you called her your wife. And I
Mhm.
understand common law, um and I understand the case law that I've read, but I've seen from and I've seen from two parents that are going through this system, um something as big as a house sale. And these two people I've met, one woman, one male, and they were told by the judge that they were married, even though they told the judge that they weren't married. There was no legal documents on file from the court. And some of these houses were bought by these individuals without the other individual's consent or
Mhm.
help or finance. And then the judge is saying, well, you're married anyway, so we're going to split it. You're going to sell this house whether you like it or not.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to get into the whole merits of these cases, but when you see people are going to court and saying, "Hey, we weren't married. We weren't married. We didn't get married. I know we lived together, but we weren't married. And I bought this house by myself with my own money." And they're saying, "Well, no, you're going to split it, and we're going to sell it, and then you're going to give her some money, and you're going to get some money out of it, and I'm going to get some money out of it."
Yeah,
it
I think the incentives, creates. I mean, among all the problems, among other problems in family court, there's so many incentives that work against the best interest of the parents, right? There are all these financial incentives built into the system, and this is why you and I don't get together and talk about civil courts or probate courts or criminal courts. They have problems in those systems, but the incentives are really unique to family courts. There are financial incentives to stretch out a case, right? There are financial incentives to issue protective orders. There are financial incentives to levy child support even where it's not needed. I mean, everything that happens in the family courts is built on financial incentives, either for the judicial officers, the judge, these court appointed therapists and super child supervision folks, or even the family court system itself, which gets a lot of money by enforcing child support, right? They're just everything is built on financial incentives first. And you're just lucky if it happens to serve the interest of justice, right? As T. Matthew Phillips said, if there's ever justice served in family courts, it's happenstance, right? Just the judge just happened to maybe do the right thing. Um, Everyone, even a broken clock's right, twice a
Twice a
day.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
The good news is that I think there's some people that are high up in the judicial system that actually are hearing us now, which is a good thing because I was a fireman, and so I was a fireman for the city of Houston, busiest firehouse in the city, and some people would dispute that, right? But that's what I'm going with. And one of the things we took pride in was getting into to the fire and putting it out and saving lives and kissing babies' foreheads, right? So with us, like we didn't like firemen that were subpar. We didn't like firemen that couldn't do the job, didn't know how to raise the ladder, or just were inefficient. It was a perversion to our profession. And when you have that much pride in your profession, you're 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 filled with it. I was proud to be a fireman. And it's the same thing should go for these judges, right? You're holding everybody's livelihood with your gavel. And
Mhm.
now, if you're causing more harm, that's a perversion to your profession. If it's just like being a fireman, if I didn't know how to turn the saw on, if I didn't know how to extend a ladder, or if I was 3 minutes late when the fire was raging and I had to rescue somebody, if I overslept, if I didn't know how my tools worked, if my tools weren't ready, right? That's a perversion to your profession. It's like good cops, bad cops. Bad cops provide a perversion to that profession. So some of these good judges are now starting to come on board and saying, yeah, there are a lot of idiot judges. And to me, I think that the Constitution and watching Supreme Court hearings, you hear these Supreme Court justices talk about honor and oath and the Constitution and the laws. And I understand that we live in a democracy and these judges are elected by the people and the people have spoken. And right now, election fraud is a huge issue. I don't care which aisle of politics you're on, whether you're on the left or the right, because I don't vote straight ticket. But a lot of these judges are coming out and saying, "Hey, look, that judge is pretty raw. Like, we don't need her, screwing things up." So more parents that are speaking out about it, and you're right. These judges rule on intimidation. These judges don't think that these parents are going to challenge them. And since they beat them down right before that, there's no recording in these courtrooms. And with transcript integrity, because like and I know that there's people out there that have been recording their judicial proceedings, and the court reporters are not transcribing it how it reflects on the true record. So these people are matching their transcripts up to their recordings, and they're incorrect. And some of these recordings are in the transcripts. They're reflecting what the judge really meant, which means that the judge and the court reporter are, friends, which is fine, but things aren't being transcribed or recorded the 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 way the hearing actually was done. So we're starting to see a lot of that. We're starting to see a lot of these judges on the higher end starting to come out and say, yeah, we do have a problem. There's judges out there that don't follow the Constitution. There are judges out there that are violating these people 100%. And again, if it's a willful violation, this is what I believe. If it is willful and it's willing, those are two big words in law, willful and willing, that these judges are sending you or making you go to the appeals court to overturn their decision because they know that they have all the discretion. They know that there's no oversight. And basically, if they want to ruin Edward Brown or George Saldana's lives or anyone else's lives, go spend 20 grand to get an appeals court, to go to the appeals court. Go hire an attorney to take you to the appeals court, or risk messing with it yourself as a pro se litigant. They know they're not going to get in trouble. But if they're willingly and willfully doing that, that's a harm. That's a financial harm. That's stealing from you. And those judges absolutely need to be removed from the bench.
You sent me an interesting video. I think you shared it on some different groups about this Supreme Court justice. Basically, telling this group that had gathered that the only reason you should ever question a judge is based on their application of the law, right? And that's interesting because I wonder, in what other profession do people get to nearly define what's we can criticize them for, right? Let's if you're a fireman and you said you can only criticize me for my ability to drive a fire truck, right? There's a lot of aspects to jobs that go beyond that. And for judges, the stuff that we're talking about aren't narrowly defined by, very specific, we very rarely talk about, how they would interpret, one law in a specific case because they're allowed to interpret it, right? And when you say that's the only grounds for which, we can question you, it's pretty arrogant, and it really shows how out of touch they are with the legitimate concerns that we have with these judges and engaging in unethical and often unlawful behavior that goes way outside their scope as a judge.
In the penal code, you have abuse of office and you have official oppression. To me, those are the only two offenses you can really use on a judge. I have filed criminal complaints into my court case You can pull it. It's public record. I filed criminal complaints on the Harris County DA and these family court judges because law enforcement won't take them. So
Mhm.
they're in my case. Eventually, somebody's going to have to take them, and somebody's going to have to read them because they conform to a criminal complaint as per the code of criminal procedure. And uh, I think this movement is getting bigger. I think people are tired of these rogue judges that are violating them, violating their children, violating their rights, their constitution, their the oath of office, the laws of the state, legislating from the bench. These patterns are being exposed, and by you and I talking about them, and then other people talking about them, there's Facebook groups going up every day because people are tired of the rulings of these rogue courts. Now, one of the things I've stuck on is legislative intent is how the law is written. So if it says the apple is red, the apple is red. It's not crimson. It's not fuchsia. It's not a burgundy or a wine uh, uh, color, right? Or a Merlot color or whatever. It is red. And these judges, you read the law into the record, and I've it's been a part of my case. I've read law into the record. I've read from the judicial canons into the record, and these judges are still like, nope, nope, nope. And you can't make it any more clear than reading it straight from a book or the website. And that's how lawlessness is happening in these family courts. And so these parents are pissed off. I understand why they're pissed off. I mean, they're working for years to get a house, and then now you have other people bottom feeding attorneys that are developing business practice schemes to rip you off when you're already going through a divorce, right? And the man is going through a divorce. Now he's got child support. Now he doesn't get to see his kids, and now his house is gone, and now his livelihood's gone. Start all over, Jack. Go to the back of the line and relive your life at the age of
Mhm.
40. It's wild.
It is, and this is just one element. This mortgage thing, this real estate thing, is just one element of hundreds of horrible things that happen in family courts. And for these judges, if they think that we have a vendetta, I look forward to not having to talk about this, right? I look forward to moving on, to other areas of our civic life to explore them. I think I'll always be kind of engaged in trying to make this country a better place for all of us. But right now, of all the list of things that are going horribly wrong in this country, and I'm well aware of them, I think we're both pretty well-rounded people. This is by far number one, and number two's way way behind, right? Because what these judges are doing is it's just completely destructive, to our society, and it goes beyond just being incompetent. These aren't just incompetent judges; these are judges who are bringing their personal arrogance and biases and X, Y, and Z to a court that has the most consequential decisions any court can make. I believe happen in family courts. So we look forward to not having to talk about them when they stop behaving in just completely in misconduct on a daily basis.
Yeah, the Constitution is supposed to be construed liberally. That's
In the interest of the people, of course.
yeah, in
Yeah.
the interest of the people, right? It's supposed to be construed liberally and expansively, and those are the
Mhm.
words of Supreme Court's Scalia.
Mhm.
I've watched many interviews with him, and and he's a constitutionalist, and he talks about the Constitution. And so when you go in there into these courts and you're demanding, and this is a new kick for me that I'm telling everybody is you do absolutely have a constitutional right in these family courts, and we need to start piping up and using it. We need to start telling them you are not going to violate me. Um, you know, you're not going to violate me, and if you're willingly and you're going to do it anyway, we're going to have an issue. And of course, attorneys don't want to bring this issue up within their courts, because those are the judges that they're going to see every day. And of course, they don't want, I mean, it's a business, right? You're going to go see that judge every day, just like you're going to go see your boss every day.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I believe that you should file your constitutional rights as an intent to use. File the Texas judicial canons into your record with an intent to use. File the disciplinary rules of professional conduct into your record with an intent to use, and the constitutions. That way, you can bring them up within your court if you're uh, litigating pro se. You're able to say, hey, look, this Constitution Amendment protects me. And I don't think the judiciary was ready for COVID, because when COVID came, nobody was ready for Zooms. Nobody was ready for YouTube. Everybody had to go into court to um, watch these judicial hearings. So when COVID came in, I did a lot of research. We did a lot of research, right? We started walking these laws down. There's nothing in the penal code that says you can't record. There's only something in the penal code that says that you can't disrupt a judicial proceeding. Well, obviously, recording with a cell phone is not interrupting a judicial proceeding. But when you go back to the civil rules of procedure, it says you may ask a judge to record. But if you're going into court and they are manhandling you and they are just abusing their discretion, and they're violating laws in the Constitution, and you record that and you report it, right? You should be safe. And I'm not telling you to go and do it and then get locked up and then blame George Saldana, but I'm telling you to make a calculated risk. Because if you're doing what's right, if you're following the laws, you're following the Constitution, and you're recording it because somebody in that position is not obeying their oath or the laws or the Constitution, and just going wild with the discretion doesn't allow you to violate the law. Mm-hmm. I can have the discretion to you can give somebody discretion, and that's the wiggle room. I get it. But you can't just go to the full spectrum and just violate somebody because of your discretion. And I think people need to realize that. And we're starting to see more people because of technology. Technology is out. People are assembling together, just like you and I on this Zoom, and they're talking about the same issues. The patterns, the business practice patterns are being exposed, and now people are piping up about it. I don't like being taken advantage of. And if it's not corrected, we're going to have some big problems within our judiciary in the next 5 or 10 years, I think.
Well, we look forward in the future to there's a candidate running for Patricia Baca Bennett's district court. And I think he's interested in talking to us. We're just trying to get him, the 360th, we're just trying to get him on the show, but he's already interested. Talk to him. And, I'll just say I was pretty impressed with, his talking points. And yeah, he seems very aware of, the stuff that we were bringing up. And he even said, I guess one of the best things he said was, if I get elected, hold my feet to the fire, right? Like, I want you to, if I'm not doing the things I said I was going to do when I get into office, by all means, go on Facebook and publicly, shade me. He wants that accountability there. He wants, he wants people to hold his feet to the fire. If he gets elected, to stick up for the things that he campaigned on. And,
I mean, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? And I don't get it. And I applaud him coming on. And I think more people should interview these candidates. We're going to get into the political season, and I hope we can do a Zoom about politics and advocating and stuff like that. But, I don't understand why these people are block walking, knocking on doors, buying flyers to hand out for, so people will endorse them and people will vote for them. and give it out and do all this work to get that robe and gavel and then come in and then just say, hey, I lied to all of you guys. I'm not
Pretty
about.
much what they've all done. I mean, I think that's fair to say, considering how bad family court judges are in Texas. I really doubt they campaigned on being horrible judges who would abuse our rights. I really doubt if you go back and look at their campaigns, that's what they promised they were going to do. So they obviously misled the public.
I mean, that right there, you're lying to the people. And then you lied when you signed a notarized affidavit that's called an oath of office. Like, and perfect example is Judge Peak in the 257th and Linda Dunson in the 309th. Both of them in Harris County. Both of them on their websites, on their campaign trail, say families first, families first. Well, I was behind Judge Dunson's courtroom because remember they locked me up because they said I beat up a bailiff and that was dismissed. But they brought me in from the back of the courtroom, and in the back of that courtroom, there's nothing about family in the back of that courtroom. It all it is a black little girl holding a black mom's hand, and there's other little black girls with their moms. There's nothing with a dad in there. There's no male figure.
There are no dads at all
in those pictures, right? But she went and she made a website, which anybody can do. Put in there, vote for me because I'm families first, and I'm going to be a family court judge, and I'm going to do what's right, and I'm going to follow the laws and the Constitution. And then they get in office and boo, they just do whatever the hell they want. And I think it also. I honestly think that we should have some sort of law that says that if you lie within your
recall.
Yeah. I mean, if you're lying to the people, telling them I'm going to uphold the laws and I'm going to do family first, and your numbers show different, and they do keep numbers. The Attorney General has numbers. Everybody has numbers. And if your numbers show that you are not treating people equally, if you're violating the law, these videos are coming out. It's just like Diane Kirby in the 280th court in Harris County. She flat out told the press, I will arrest you. You have 5 seconds to get out. And if a judge that went to law school has been practicing.
How does he not know how horrible that's ignorant? I mean, just, yeah.
You guys went to law school. That's your deal. That's your profession. You went to law school for this, and you don't know the basic fundamentals. That's like being a fireman, not knowing how to put on your turnout gear. Oh shit, I'm a fireman, but I don't know how to dress it up. How do I dress up, man?
They said it's a private court. Like what?
A confidential court. And she told the guy, you got 5 minutes, or I'm gonna arrest you. And like, if you don't know the basic fundamentals of the Constitution and you're a judge, you need to be moved. Go.
That's bad.
It's pretty bad.
Well, George, let's wrap it up, and we wish everyone to have a good weekend, and we'll be back. I think we're trying to do one of these a week if we can, right?
Yeah. We're gonna start spicing it up with some cool animations and stuff. Right now, Ed and I are trying to figure out how to merge this deal, and so right now I'm just recording them and I'm putting them on my GMFS podcast. But eventually, we're gonna make a George and Ed show and have all these animations and stuff for people that watch.
Oh, I'm excited. So, well, thanks for watching, everybody. And there's no shortage of things to talk about when it comes to family court. So stay tuned for what's next.
All right, guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.
Thanks.